the worst case scenario that you have planned for in Iran?
Well, I don't know if there's a worst case. We have them very much beaten militarily from the military standpoint. They're still lobbing some missiles. At some point, they won't even be able to do that. I guess the worst case would be we do this and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen. We don't want that to happen. That would probably be the worst. You go through this and then in 5 years you realize you put somebody in who was no better. So we'd like to see somebody in there that's going to bring it back for the people.
Do you have someone in mind right now? Because you said all the people you did have in mind have been taken out. What do you?
Well, most of the people we had in mind are dead. So, you know, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group. They may be dead also, based on reports. So I guess you have a third wave coming in. Pretty soon we're not going to know anybody.
Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, is he an option at all in your mind?
I guess he is. Some people like him, and we haven't been thinking about too much about that. It would seem to me that somebody from within maybe would be more appropriate.
The final Gambit, decoding the Tehran decapitation strike. Good evening. The geopolitical landscape of the Middle East has shifted more in the last 48 hours than it has in the last 40 years. Following the confirmed reports of the American-led strike in Tehran, we are beginning to piece together a narrative that is far more complex than a single military operation. The administration has officially confirmed the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. In the immediate aftermath, the headlines focused on the precision of the strike and the collapse of the existing power structure. But as we dive deeper into the intelligence reports and the administration's own admission, a chilling theory begins to emerge. This wasn't just a successful American mission. It may have been the final calculated move of a man who knew his time ran out. The first clue. During a press briefing earlier today, when the president was questioned about the post-war transition, specifically, who the U.S. had vetted to take over the government in the event of a successful decapitation strike, the answer was startling. The president admitted, and I quote, "We were so successful in our first strike that the three choices we would have considered getting behind were killed in the blast." On the surface, this looks like collateral damage or tactical oversight. But if we look at the logistics of that meeting, a different picture painted in betrayal and martyrdom begins to take shape. How is it that the very individual the West trusted to lead a new Iran were sitting in the exact same room as the men they intended to replace? The purge of traitors. To understand this, we have to look at the mindset of the Ayatollah in his final days. We know from internal intercepts that Khamenei had grown increasingly paranoid, or perhaps increasingly observant. He reportedly stated that he would rather die a martyr than live out the rest of his life as an old man in a bunker. He knew the Americans were coming, He knew the end of the regime was a mathematical certainty, but more importantly, he likely knew who among his inner circle had already turned. Think about the strategy. If you are a leader who knows you are marked for death, and you know there are weak ones in your ranks planning to defect to the enemy, how do you handle them? If you arrest them, you tip your hand. If you ignore them, they lead the enemy to your door and then inherit your country. But if you keep them close, if you invite them to an emergency summit to discuss the defense of the nation, you ensure they are exactly where you are when the missiles arrive. The ultimate sacrifice. This suggests that Ayatollah didn't just accept his death, he curated the guest list for it. By keeping these three potential successors by his side, he aroused no suspicion. These men likely believed they were safe. Perhaps they even provided the GPS coordinates to the Israelis or American intelligence, thinking they were clearing the path for their own rise to power. What they didn't count on was the Ayatollah's readiness to die for his cause. They thought they were the architects of a new era. In reality, they were already marked as traitors. By ensuring these three individuals were neutralized in the same strike that took his own life, Khamenei performed one final service to his vision of the country. He ensured that the Americans would have no one left on the ground to get behind. He effectively decapitated his own opposition from beyond the grave. The aftermath. The American administration now finds itself in a vacuum. The moderate voices they spent years vetting and communicating with are gone. The first strike was too successful because it didn't just take out the enemy. It took out the American insurance policy. As we look at the smoke clearing over Tehran, we have to ask, who truly won this exchange? The United States removed a long-standing adversary, yes. But in doing so, they may have walked into a trap designed to leave the country in total chaos, stripping away any hope of a stabilized Western-friendly transition. The Ayatollah chose his exit. He chose his martyrs. And in his final act, he ensured that if he was going down, he was taking the weak ones, and the Americans planned for a new Iran down with him. We will continue to monitor the administration's rollout of the new regional initiative as more details of the strike's aftermath becomes available. For now, the world waits to see who, if anyone, is left to pick up the pieces. I'm Ro, and this is The Real Shift. And this has been a special report on Tehran decapitation strike. Good night. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this so more people may have this take, and maybe it might shed some light on a very interesting situation. Thank you.